Welcome to the Operation F.A.U.S.T. 2nd edition overview. In this video, we're going to be talking about the new 2nd edition of Operation F.A.U.S.T. It's a bluffing and deduction game. We'll be highlighting how it's different from the 1st edition and kind of showing you how to play. So please note, it's important to know that this is a prototype version of the game. This is not the final retail version. The final retail version will look much nicer than this does. So what you'll get in the box is you'll get a deck of player aids that are going to give you some tips on how to play, as well as details on all the plot cards in the game and their abilities. So you can always look at that. Since it's a bluffing game, you might need to reference your player aid because you could be lying about the cards in your hand. So that shows you all the cards available that you can lie about having. So that's very important. So in addition to the player aids, we have plot cards, and I'll talk about those in a bit. There's a whole deck of those. There is a smaller deck of forged document cards, so we'll talk about those as well. And then you have an art deck of all your art cards. And the goal of the game is to be the first player to gain $1 million or more in black market value of artwork that you have saved from the Third Reich. So this is the Mona Lisa, for example, worth $500,000. That's actually the most valuable painting in the game that you can collect. So the art cards are when you set up, you shuffle them up, you put the deck down, and you deal out an art cache of 6 cards in 2 rows and 3 columns. And then you also have a bunch of intel. This is the currency in the game. It's intelligence. It represents knowledge about where the paintings can be, so you can get them. And every player will start with 5 intelligence and 2 plot cards. So the premise of the game is you are an art patron in occupied France during World War II, and you are trying to save priceless works of art from the Third Reich before they are looted. On your turn, you will look at, you can always look at your hand. You can see I have a French Resistance card, and that number 6, that tells me how many of that type of card is in the deck. So there's 6 of these in the whole game. And it tells me if I use this card, I will gain 3 intel. So to buy artwork, you need to have at least 10 intel to buy a piece of artwork from the art cache. You start with 5. So if I use this and got 3 more, I'd be up to 8. And maybe in one more turn, I could have over 10 to purchase a piece of art there. The other one I have is an Allies card, and there's only 3 of those in the game. And the Allies card says secretly look at 1 art card in the art cache or belonging to another player. And if it's a forgery, take it. So I'll talk about the kinds of art that are in the game right now, because that is very important. As you can see, the ally can steal a forgery from another player or from the art cache. So we'll look at this one here. So this is just a standard piece of art. You can see this is an Edward Degas painting, a very famous one. It is worth $350,000 in black market value. The next one here is a Gustav Klimt. That is very famous as well. This is worth $350,000 as well, but you'll see it's labeled degenerate. So degenerate art is art that the Nazis did not like. They considered degenerate art. It was below them. So they made a great deal of fun of it. They rounded up artists who created it. They burned it and tried to get rid of it. So this art still is worth $350,000 to win the game. It still counts and will help you win. However, it's susceptible to being stolen by other players if they use a special double agent card that we'll talk about. There's a forgery type of card as well. So these are paintings that are just fakes. And this forgery is a Raphael that's worth $300,000. But this does not count as $300,000 unless you get a forged document card to cover it up and make it look like it's an actual real Raphael. So if you have this card and a forged document card, you can count this $300,000 towards your win. There's only one other type of card here I'll show you, and this is one that's both a forgery and a degenerate. All right, so on your turn, you are going to claim a plot card. Here's the hand that I have. I have an Allies card and a French Resistance. I'm going to pick one that I want to use, and I'm going to put it face down on the table. So in this case, maybe I say I have a French Resistance, and this number here tells you how many of that kind of card is in the deck. So there's 6 French Resistance. And you can see it lets me gain 3 intel. So I'd place it face down and say, I have a French Resistance. I am going to claim 3 intel and add them to my pool. Now, what's interesting is you can claim a card that you have, or I could totally lie. I could instead say, for example, I have a spy, and I'm going to steal 3 intel from Jim. Right? We'll talk about all the roles in a bit, but the spy lets you steal from another player. If nobody challenges me, I get to do that thing even if I don't have the card. So you're definitely encouraged to kind of bluff and lie. If you really need to do a certain thing, you can always lie about it and try to win by bluffing. So if I claim a spy, nobody challenges me, I get to steal 3 intel from Jim, and I get to keep the card. If I was challenged, I would have to show it. Oh, I don't have a spy. It's actually a French Resistance. In that case, I would have to pay the challenging player 2 intel, and I lose that card and don't get the benefit. So I would not get the 3 intel from the French Resistance. Another interesting thing that encourages lying even more in the game, or bluffing, we won't call it lying. Let's say I have a French Resistance and I place it down. I say, I have a spy. I'm going to steal 3 intel from Jim. Nobody calls me out, so I get the 3 intel from Jim, right? Then I have the option to show my card and say, hey, fools, I was lying. I was bluffing. So at that point, if I show my card, I have to discard it, but I gain 2 intel from the pool as well. So if you successfully bluff in the game with a plot card, you gain 2 intel from the pool, but then you have to discard that card. Anytime you show your card, you have to discard it. When you don't show your card, you keep it and it stays in your hand. So let's talk about the different roles in the game. There's 8 different roles that you can claim. You learn these very quickly, but again, even when you don't know them, you're going to get the player aid that lists all of them. So there's 6 French Resistance in the deck. That just very simple gets you 3 intel. There is a forger. So the forger lets you also gain 3 intel or a forged document card from the supply. So that's how you can get one of those forged document cards. So if you have a piece of art that's a forgery, remember, it doesn't count unless you have a forged document card. So you can always try to find a forger, or you can lie about having a forger to get one. All right, next we have the spy, which I mentioned earlier. This lets you steal 3 intel or a forged document card from an other player. So this can really hurt somebody, especially if they were relying on a forged document card to cover up a forgery, or it could set them back on being able to buy art because you just stole 3 intel from them. Next, we have the Black Marketeer. Now, to buy an art card, it always costs 10 intel. So there's 2 phases on your turn. The first one is to do a plot card. The second thing is to buy art, which is optional. If you have 10 intel, you can spend 10 and buy any one of these 6 art cards that are out on the table. So you'll get a significant discount if you use the Black Marketeer. So if I had 17, I could buy when I do my plot action, I could claim a Black Marketeer and spend 7 and get an art card. Then I could spend 10 more and get another art card. That's the only way you can get 2 pieces of art in one turn, is by using that card. The Allies card lets you secretly look at any card in the art cache, any one of these, or in the hand of another player. And if it's a forgery, you get to keep it. So this game has some deduction in it as well. There's ways to look at these art cards, and you're going to start to learn where the different art is in the game, whether it's with another player or in the cache. So once you have some of that information, these cards, like the Allies, become more powerful. You secretly look at an art card in the cache like the Allies card does. However, he lets you keep a degenerate. So I can look at another player's card again, or an art card in the cache. And if it says degenerate, like I know this one, because we looked at it earlier, is degenerate, I would get to keep it. And boom, I've just got $350,000 towards my $1 million win condition. That's the double agent. The Secret Police, he is very different than all the other cards. He just makes you immune to the spy and the art dealer. So if I have a Secret Police card, somebody can say, okay, I'm going to use my spy and steal 3 intel from Robert. I could say, nope, I have Secret Police. You can't. And I could lie about it, right? I could actually put out a French resistance and say, nope, I have a Secret Police. You can't steal from me. Then it's up to that player to call your bluff or not. And again, if you lose a challenge, you have to pay 2 intel to the player who challenged you. If you're challenged and you were telling the truth, like maybe they challenged me and said, I don't have a Secret Police, and I do, then they have to pay me 2 intel. So there are penalties for losing the battle of the bluff. The art dealer, that's the last card here. There's 4 of them in the game. And this lets you trade any art card that you hold for a random art card held by another player. So you'll find, I'll go over the art cards now, but one thing about the game is the art ranges in value from about 200,000 to 500,000. So you're always wanting to get the more valuable pieces of art because it's all about who is the first to $1 million. So you want to try to find the more valuable pieces and add them to your collection. So the art dealer can help you do that. He can also help you get rid of maybe a forgery that you don't want, right? Or maybe another player has the Mona Lisa and that's the most valuable painting in the game. So you're going to try to get rid of a lower value piece of art for a higher value piece of art. So many a game in Operation Faust is won by using that art dealer card. So that's all the plot cards. Now, the art cache is very interesting. It gives more bluffing opportunities. As the game moves on, you're going to learn, like I said, where the valuable paintings are. And that really helps the theme come across. You're really trying to be sneaky, figure out where the good stuff is, get enough intel collected so you can take it and then try to protect it and be the first to that $1 million. So when I spend 10 intel, so let's just say, I've got 10 intel and I've just played French Resistance and got 3 more intel. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 10 and I'm going to buy a piece of art. So when I buy a piece of art, it's interesting because I get to look at any piece of art in the cache. So let's say I pick this one. And now I have, it's a forgery and a degenerate. It's worth $350,000, which is pretty good. This painting by Vincent van Gogh. But you know what? I could keep it, which might be something I want to do, right? Or I could say, no, I don't want that. And I could put it back. And if I put it back, then whatever I pick next, I have to keep. So let's say I pick this. And I've got a $350,000 just plain old degenerate painting. That's mine. That goes in my art cache and counts towards my $1 million win condition. I've got $350,000 already. But remember, this degenerate painting can be stolen by that double agent card. Now there's an empty spot here because I've bought a painting. When that happens, I get to look at the top card of the art pile and I see, oh my goodness, this is the Mona Lisa. This is the biggest painting, most valuable painting in the game. And I have to fill it there. Now, I am the only one in the game who knows that's the Mona Lisa. So don't give it away, right? There's a lot of this kind of subterfuge that happens in the game. On my, when I have 10 intel to buy again, do I buy that? Because if I looked at it and then I buy it, people know that's a good painting, unless I was bluffing, right? So those bluffing opportunities run throughout every aspect of the game, and that's a good one, right? Maybe, let's say if I bought a card, maybe I picked the Mona Lisa, and I make a face, oh, and I put it back, right? You know, other players may not want to take that now because they think it wasn't a good piece of art, but you still know it's a $500,000 painting. So maybe you're going to bank on your bluffing skill to come back in another round to pick that up and win the game, right? So all that kind of stuff is in play. And there's lots of different art cards. There's an interesting here. This is a forgery. That is a 0. It is actually a painting by Adolf Hitler, and it's worth 0, and it's a forgery. So if this was in here, I might want to say, if I pick this forgery that's worth 0, I might say, oh, I might keep it. Why would I keep it? Because now it might be susceptible to somebody else. I could trade it with somebody to stick them with it by using a card that lets me trade, the art dealer. Or they may come at me with an allies card. And if they pick this card from my hand and it's a forgery with an allies card, they have to take it. So I just put it on them. So, you know, that kind of stuff is really where the fun of the game goes, is really trying to bluff the other players, to fool them, to kind of a lot of subterfuge and deduction on where the good art is, to be that first player that makes it to $1 million. So, you know, we've added the bigger cash now. A big thing that's different from the first edition is you get to look at cards and then put them back if you don't like the first one. So that way you're starting to gain more knowledge on where the good paintings are. So that really makes a big difference in the game. Getting rewarded for successfully bluffing with 2 intel from the pool. That encourages the bluffing even more, which we believe makes the game a lot more fun as well. And also just little things like, you know, when I have to replace a piece of art, you know, being able to look at it first before I replace it, now I have some knowledge that the other players don't have. So that makes the game more interesting and more fun as well. And that table talk really happens. So that is Operation F.A.U.S.T, the 2nd edition. It is definitely streamlined. The first edition, each character card, each plot card had 2 different abilities, a hand ability and a table ability. This one only has 1 ability per card, so it's much simpler for people to pick up. So you can play this with your grandparents, you can play this with your family, you can play this with people who, you know, have played no games except poker, for example, and they will get into it because it's simple, and the bluffing ability to bluff is, you know, runs throughout the whole game. And everybody's trying to get to that $1 million first. And it's pretty quick too, 20-minute game. So that's it. That's Operation F.A.U.S.T, the 2nd edition.